What's up YouTube, Saf here on Super Saf TV, and in this video I'm going to be comparing the specs of the Samsung Galaxy Note 3 to the Samsung Galaxy Note 2. Now the Note 2 has been very successful and the Note 3 hopes to continue on with that success with some great new features. Now what's new, what's different, and is it worth upgrading from the Note 2 to the Note 3? Well, do hit that thumbs up button and let's find out in this head-to-head spec comparison. Now initially looking at the size and dimensions, the Note 3 is a bit smaller than the Note 2, roughly about 1.3 millimeters in width, around about the same height, and also 1.1 millimeters smaller in terms of thickness. Now this is great to see because the Note 3 actually has a larger screen compared to the Note 2. It's got a 5.7 inch screen versus a 5.5 inch screen on the Note 2. Now this is quite impressive from Samsung. They did this initially with the S3 to the S4, a smaller device but with a larger screen. Now they've also done this from the Note 2 to the Note 3. So you're getting a larger screen on a smaller device, which is absolutely great. In terms of resolution, 720p 1280 by 720 on the Note 2, 267 ppi, so a pretty decent resolution there already. The Note 3 goes one step further and has a full HD screen, 1920 by 1080, 386 ppi, so a much higher ppi on the Note 3. Images, text and video are going to be looking that little bit better, and HD videos are going to be pixel for pixel on the screen, so that's great to see. Now in terms of the build, the Note 2 has that polycarbonate plastic with the hyperglaze finish. Now the Note 3 has an interesting leather style material on the back with some stitching. They're really going for that notebook look, and that's quite interesting to see. It'll be really nice to see how it feels, and it's supposed to be quite grippy. Now in terms of what's inside these devices, the Note 2 has a 1.6 GHz quad-core processor, which is pretty decent. The Note 3 has two versions. The LTE version is a 2.3 GHz quad-core processor, and the 3G version is a 1.9 GHz octa-core version. So you've got different versions for different markets. You've got 3 GB of RAM on the Note 3 compared to the 2 GB of RAM on the Note 2, so multitasking is going to be a little bit better on the Note 3, and the heavier processing power will also be of help. The Note 2 came in 16, 32 and 64 GB versions. The Note 3 will come in 32 and 64 GB versions. Now both of these do have expandable storage, something that's great to see from Samsung on all of their devices, that expandable storage which we're not seeing too much on lots of other devices. Now looking at the cameras, the Note 2 has an 8 megapixel camera, the Note 3 has a 13 megapixel camera, so an improvement here for the image stills. Now, in terms of video, the Note 2 from the rear-facing camera films at 1080p at 30 frames a second. The Note 3, the 3G version, will also film at 1080p at 30 frames a second, but the LTE version will also be able to film at 1080p at 60 frames a second, which is absolutely great. But it takes it the one step further, 4K Ultra HD to 160p, so you've got an amazing resolution there that you're going to be able to record at. 4K on a phone, absolutely insane. My DSLR doesn't even film at that much, and it is arguable whether you need 4K on a smartphone, because most devices out there are at 1080p, most screens that you see as well at 1080p. 4K hasn't really settled in yet, so you know, having 4K on a phone, but I'd rather have it than not, so that's really impressive to see on the Note 3. Front facing cameras, the Note 2 has a 1.9 megapixel front facing camera capable of filming 720p HD. The Note 3 has a 2 megapixel front facing camera capable of filming 1080p HD. So again, you've got 1080 versus 720. 1080 obviously better, especially if you're going to be using both the front and the back camera for videos that you're going to be putting together later on. Now, although both of these have Android, the Note 2 is currently on Android version 4.1.2 Jelly Bean. The Note 3 is going to come out of the box with 4.3. Now both of these will have the TouchWiz UI, but you are going to be getting the latest version of Android on the Note 3. The Note 2, I'm not sure when or if you're going to be getting the later versions of Jelly Bean. Hopefully soon, we may or may not see it. The S3 is still stuck on that same update as well, so you know, that we'll have to wait and see. Now both of these have a unique feature which other smartphones don't have, and that is the S Pen, but there's lots of improvements on the S Pen on the Note 3. You've got Air Command, so this is a new function which lets you hover over a dot and you can either circle or square. Now what this basically means is when you hover over, you're going to get lots of new options over this dot, and you can also circle videos, images and web pages and put them into a scrapbook, so you can like easily make notes and things, which is very nice to see. And the most impressive feature, which I thought, was that you can draw a square while you're in an app and it will open a new app in that square. So you've got a specific size window on top of the current app that you're using, which is absolutely great to see. And taking full advantage of that processor and RAM, you can also run the same app in multiple windows. So for instance, you could be messaging two people at the same time within the same app on different windows, which is again very impressive. Now, whether we'll be seeing some of these features on the Note 2, it may or may not be likely. I mean, with the S3 and the S4, lots of the new S4 features are not on the S3, but we'll have to wait and see for that. Now, battery, you've got a 3200 milliamp battery versus a 3100 milliamp battery, so slightly higher milliamps on the Note 3, but then again, it does have a larger screen and a high resolution, so we'll have to see these hands-on to see what sort of performance you can get on here. But then again, it is larger than most of the devices out there, so generally speaking, you are going to be getting a full days of good usage out of both of these devices. Now, in terms of price, the Note 2 currently you can pick it up for roughly about £350 to £400 here in the UK, roughly between $450 to $500 in the US. So the price has come down quite a bit. Now, the Note 3, they've not mentioned any prices specifically, but I'd expect it to be roughly about the £600 mark here in the UK, or roughly about $700 in the US. So quite a big difference in terms of price. And after the Note 3 has released as well, the Note 2 price will undoubtedly come down even more. So those were the key differences between these two devices. The Note 2 was great, but the Note 3 is just even better. Now, whether it's worth upgrading from the Note 2 to the Note 3, I mean, if you're currently happy with the Note 2, then it might be worth holding on to that for another year, for instance, until they've got the Note 4. But if you do want to take advantage of all of these new features, then it may be worth upgrading, especially if you do have the money. What are your views on the Note 3? Do you think it's a good upgrade from the Note 2? Do drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts, and do also let me know if there's anything else that you'd like me to compare the Note 3 to. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, as always, please do hit that thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out. Why not subscribe to the channel? I've got plenty more content coming up in here. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on Super Saf TV. I'll see you next time. If you want to see more regular videos like this one, then be sure to hit the subscribe button, which will be below. If you're on a mobile device, it may be somewhere else. If you want to see my previous related video, then hit the link right here. If you want to stay in touch over Facebook, Twitter and Google+, then all of the addresses will be there somewhere, as well as direct links in the description below.